you're looking for a little Halloween romance to get in the spooky mood this season, I highly recommend looking into an oldie but a goodie, The Hackover. I wrote this story for the 2021 Funk and Fiction Halloween blog event, and it is a parody of The Hangover. So I'm going to give you today a reading of the story to see if it's something that you might want to dip into. So enjoy. If the intensity of her hangover was equivalent to the level of merriment at last night's post-conference Halloween celebration, Harper Reyes had obviously experienced the merriest night of her life. She hadn't even opened her eyes yet, and her head was already protesting against waking up. Every hair follicle was tender. Her mouth was as fuzzy as her memories, and her stomach, no. Better to focus on other pains rather than the current dangers posed by that organ. She inhaled deeply, swallowed, and waited until the churning settled before mustering the strength to open her eyes. Even so, she immediately regretted that decision. Harper blinked at the blurry world around her, once, twice, and kept blinking. But the too bright hotel room refused to focus, which didn't do any favors for her head or stomach, even as she realized that, inexplicably, she was wearing glasses in addition to the contacts she'd forgotten to take out last night. She removed the glasses from her face and stared at the familiar black brow-line frames, perplexed. Why on earth was she wearing Dennis's glasses? Something warm stirred under the sheets. Someone, Harper realized, as an arm snaked around her stomach, and she froze. One night, that's all she needed. Just one carefree, dance-filled, drunken night to fling aside her stress and recover from the endless weeks of conference prep with Dennis the perfectionist. Weeks that had culminated in that 10-car pile-up of a presentation. But even flung aside, stress always had a way of boomeranging right back. She worked up the nerve, then peeked over her shoulder at the warmth spooned behind her, and groaned. Dennis Hunt in the flesh, with at least a dozen purple, gold, and green beads looped around his neck, was as a rumpled mess, passed out beside her. She doubted prim and proper, but that's not company policy. Dennis would ever be caught dead without having ironed, starched, and pleated himself to meticulous precision. So witnessing the wrinkled wreckage of his shirt would have been shocking had her body not already been electrified by the sight of him beside her, sharing the bed, sharing a sheet. One long, heavy arm over her hip. A well-defined muscular arm to match the strong cut to his jawline that she may or may not have been admired during the 6 months they'd been working together. She couldn't imagine Dennis doing something so unrefined as sweating, but one didn't achieve such biceps and triceps and all sorts of steps without working for it. And if there was one thing Dennis did unfailingly, besides arriving early, overanalyzing, and triple-checking, it was working hard for what he achieved. Harper's stare lingered a moment over his features, the hard part in his hair and soft gradient of its fade into a medium buzz cut, the smooth glow of his dark skin, the plump fullness of his lips surrounded by the precise trim of his beard. One of those fuzzy memories from last night suddenly crystallized into clarity, the peppermint of his tongue licking into her mouth. And the carnal satisfaction of hearing rigid, rule-following Dennis literally growl at her when she licked him back. Well, I hope you enjoyed this snippet and that it entices you to go over to Funk and Fiction's blog in their previous events as well as this year's event and enjoy some Halloween romances.